Hello my crafty friends, welcome to card number 13 in my full deck challenge. I hope you're following along with me. If not, it's never too late to start. I really wanted to experiment with some silica gel beads. You know those little packets you get in a new handbag or a box of shoes? Well, I wanted to see if I could use that as a mixed media medium. To start off with, I'm going to prepare the surface, and if you've seen any of my other videos or if you're new to my channel, you'll soon learn that I absolutely love texture. So I always add a lot of layers before I start adding any kind of color. In this one I have these round discs. They were actually part of a party decoration where these circles were all stitched together like a sort of bunting. I've just cut them separately. I've left some of the strings on. I like the different texture that it creates, and I'm just gluing those down with some craft glue, just overlapping on top of each other. I am leaving some of the underneath of the card showing just slightly. Of course, you don't have to use round discs. You could cut out squares or any kind of shape from a magazine or a piece of cardstock, anything really, just to create a texture underneath which will change the effect of the color once we add it. I'm adding some gesso with a thin brush. I'm going over the whole card, including the background, to give it an even surface. Now I'm going to put multiple layers of the gesso, as I want the purple of the circles not showing at all. And the reason I've done it in multiple thin layers is just because it dries quicker. I could make a really thick layer of gesso and cover it all at once, but that takes a little bit too long to dry, and I prefer lots of thinner, quicker drying layers. I could have left the purple showing slightly if that was the color theme I was going to go, but I'm using a totally different color theme, so I want all the purple covered. You could use also like written text, which you could allow to shine through, which also gives it a nice effect. Remember, there's no rules. This is just sort of for guidance and for inspiration. Do it whichever way you like and change it as you go, and do what works for you. This is the third and final layer of the gesso. As you can see, it's totally covered the purple color, and it's all just sort of one tone. Once I'm happy with the gesso coverage of the background, I'm going to prepare the silica gel. Now in these little white packets it comes as beads, and I'm going to add them to a little bit of gesso, and I'm going to mix them around and try and cover as many of the beads as possible, and then I'm going to paint them onto the background. As you may know, these silica gel beads are used to absorb moisture, and I wasn't quite sure if they would absorb anything with the paint, which thankfully they actually didn't. They stayed intact in the same shape. They just added a beautiful texture onto the card. I've just painted them on from left to right in a sort of a diagonal. I didn't want it all over. I wanted just a certain focal point with the beads. I wasn't quite sure if just the gesso would keep them adhered to the card. So once the gesso was dry, I went back with a paintbrush and some craft glue and went over and under and around the beads just to make sure they were more secure. Once all the beads were covered with the glue, I used the heat tool just to make sure everything dried really well. For the color, I'm going to use acrylic paints. I'm using blues and turquoises, and I'm just going to water it down so it spreads a little easier. I'm not going to use it in its thick form. With a paintbrush, I'm going to add it to the edge of the card and just smush it down in between some of the beads, and then I'm going to spray with water from a little spray bottle and just allow the color to run. As you can see, it goes over and above the beads, which gives it a really nice effect. And then also my texture underneath with the circles, the color tends to go on it in different ways, so it makes the background isn't flat. It's very, very interesting. I will dry well between each color. The darker turquoise and the dark blue will go on different areas of the card. They're not going to, some of them will overlap, which will create then a different color, which is really nice too. I use the paintbrush to help paint over some of the beads, as the color can't run there on its own. The color will tend to run around them. So some of them I do want covered with color, some I want them to stay white. So I just use my paintbrush to color those that are nearer to the edge where the darker color is. Don't you love the way the colors are blending and the designs it's making in the background? I just love the way this is looking. I'll just add a bit more color as I go until I'm happy with the balance across the whole card. I want a bit more of the darker contrast, so I'm adding a little bit more of the dark blue. I'll show you in real time a close-up so you can see the different textures and colors close up. You can see, notice the circles of where I had stuck those purple circles, how it's made a different kind of pattern underneath. And it's lifted the layers, and there's some darker and some lighter, which has created beautiful interest. Some of the gel beads are white, some are with the color, and I think that looks really, really beautiful. I'm really happy with that. Let me know what you think in the comments. I don't think this card needs much more, otherwise it'll detract from the textures of the background. So I'm just adding a small little word that says "with love." Very, very simple. I'm now punching the hole so I can attach it to the rest of my set of my full deck challenge. Have you ever used silica gel before in your mixed media? Let me know how you went about using it. You can write something in the comments, or if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I'll do my very best to answer them. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I do hope you enjoyed it and were inspired to try something new. I would love it if you subscribed to my channel and hit the little notification bell so that you are notified every time I put up new content. I have lots more videos coming. I hope you will join me in this full deck challenge of altering a full deck of playing cards. Thanks again for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.